he's got high school kids that are becoming millionaires by developing foot pedal sewing machines that they're selling all over 1632 Germany. You know, what a wonderful concept.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Is I'm sure David's probably going to get into this afternoon at 4 o'clock. How's that for a great thought? Is the reader wants a more than just the book experience, especially in young adults. They want to meet the authors. It was like Teen Reads did a survey, and I think it was like 80-some-odd% of the kids want to meet the authors in person. So if you're nervous about being around teens, that's not a job for you. I'll be wearing my non-flammable underwear, I'm sure, but they want content. They want content. You go out to J.K. Rowling's site. You go out to Percy Jackson. All the different sites. They want something that's dynamic, changeable, that changes regularly. Unfortunately, most of my stuff is static, which we're working on, and trying to get something that there's additional content that feeds into the world that you've already created. So it's way beyond the good old days when you could just hand it and go, there you are, that's what you get.
And also the possibility to input into that.
And input into
because he's got this great big committee, and I'm sure that there's thousands of words that are submitted to them, and they publish the good ones, and they, you know, and obviously the bad ones get thrown out. But
that's what Crank.com does, by the way. Everything's done on an open submission system. There's total strangers coming in, and what we found now, again, there's thousands who want to write for us, and you're picking out one a day. But this is based on the idea that the world is full of geniuses. They don't happen to, they're not professional writers, they're mechanics, they're cooks, they're whatever, but they have things to say and they're brilliant. And they've got insight, and they've, you know, and everyone's run into, you know, some old guy pushing a mop who tells a hilarious story that has you laughing so hard you can't breathe. And I want to find those people and say, look, you don't have to transition from that to being a writer. Like, you know, you have a way with words, you have a natural way of relating to people. We'll give you a place to tell people that. And I had, you know, before with my novel, I had a thriving message board on that site, and had all these people there together. That element of the people talking to each other, you know, and relating to each other and sharing, you know, it becomes like what's happened here. It's where the fans get together, and that community, in terms of building a community of like fans or whatever, again, something else that 50 years ago, maybe you got fans scattered all over the country, and they're still scattered all over the country, but they're also all in one style. And there's no substitute for that. And it's in that, getting that many people together, like-minded people together, creative people together, something magical happened that, again, did not used to ever happen in the human species.
Why do you think it's taken the publishing industry so long to take into account the crack.com, or as I think about it since I'm a little older, the hotmail effect, which is you offer something for free so you have enough people, and that's how you go out making the internet. I mean, as many different models have been tried on the internet, right? The getting an audience, creating an audience with free content until the audience is large enough to sustain a business of sorts. I mean, it seems like, to me, I look at the next 20 years of publishing, and it's going to be lots of small individuals going out there offering their stuff for free and free and free and free and free until they can go, I have 500,000 readers, and then they go to a publishing company and say they actually want this book to walk home with, make one for them. You know what I mean? That, to me, that seems like it has to be this idea that, like you said, where you can, some random writer, you can just offer their book and people are just going to buy it. With iTunes out there, it's just, I haven't bought a full album in, I don't know how long. I mean, I buy individual songs because I buy what I like, and I don't want crap. I don't want the other stuff. So,
right. And the way it used to be, where you had the hit song, and like 4 pretty good songs,
right,
and then a cover, and then an instrumental, and then like a remix of the hit song.
Right.
And then there's like the little, the insert thing where like the little skit where the rapper is talking to another rapper. And again, that's what I was trying to make clear. Is I don't think the music industry understood that they no longer had the ability to make us take whatever they wanted.
Right.
And they were very slow to come around on that. And at the same, you know, you sink a lot of money into a hardcover book and you read the first chapter and realize man, this is exactly like the guy's last book. And
Yeah.
in fact, I already know who the killer is now because it's the same thing. You know, and so, and you feel like, and there's not like a way to recoup that $30. I think that it's hard to, look, Crack used to be a magazine. This is the same Crack that used to be the Mad Magazine ripoff.
Oh, really?
The kid that had, okay. Well, the site's completely, it's the same brand, but it completely changed content. There's no more like the movie parodies or the comics, anything like that. But it's the same, it's a 50-year-old brand, right?
Huh.
They had a magazine that had folded, and this website kind of was born out of that because a company came along and bought it and inside the staff with like some writers from the internet. And to try to make something that could sustain itself, which now there's more people reading Crack the website than ever read that comic. The comic used to sell like 70,000 copies a month. We are now reaching 7.5 million separate human beings a month who are reading 100 million articles on it. But when the magazine folded and we started the site, a lot of old writers from the magazine were contacting us expecting to make magazine money. This is the internet. You have banner ads that pay at a rate of $1 per thousand. If you write an article that's read by 100,000 people, which you write something that's read by 100,000 people, you're in like the top 0.1% of all writers who've ever lived in human history. It's read by 100,000 people, we've earned $100. This is the internet. Everything is free. Now, again, I can sit there and rail about that and like, well, that's ridiculous. 100,000 people, you read something that's compelling to 100,000 people made enough money to like buy gas twice for my car. And so have to understand that how drastically we were having to cut the rates that are being paid. Not because we're being mean, and not because we're running a sweatshop, but because the world has changed. You're now selling salt water on the beach, you know, and so I've had to talk to many writers who were making their living by writing freelance articles and making a couple $1,000s a shot, and had to explain it's different now, you know, and it doesn't pay that much. So that's a hard conversation. Whose fault is it?
But do you think authors have that unrealistic expectation? I see newspapers, they're gone, right? And I look at musicians are kind of having to go straight to fans or accept the fact that they're going to make, you know, I don't know how much they're making on an iTunes song, but it can't be more than a couple pennies. You know? And they're looking at that, right? So they've had to deal with it, and they're dealing with it now. Do you think authors are that last bastion of people that haven't been, not last, but one of the last bastions of people that still have an expectation, and I don't know, you're two authors, right? That have an expectation of, wait, there's a certain price that I should be paid for my work, versus I have to take what the world is going to give me now.
I had the advantage of growing up writing on the internet. I've been writing on the internet since 1998. So I've got 12 years of doing that. And then after that, and during the time, I wasn't paid anything for most of it, okay? And then I got a book deal. After years of giving away a lot of writing or having, you know, the ad revenue, you barely break even, okay? And I was working a full-time job, so I never, because I didn't aspire to be an author and didn't know fellow authors, whatever, I never understood what you could expect. I thought what I think a lot of people outside the industry think, that there's like one of two things happens to you. Either you're Stephen King, and you sell many copies, and you live in a giant house, or else you drink yourself to death, or broken alone. You know, they find you, you know, like months later, your family finds you in your den, and you've killed yourself. And
then your books can become popular. So unfair.
So I think there's people who have the unrealistic expectations, but I think it's not anybody's fault now, because even people that know the industry are finding the industry shifting beneath their feet. But again, let me reemphasize, because I hate getting bogged down in the conversation of how much less you're making per book or per whatever. If you're a writer and you're upset about the fact that whereas before something's going to be read by 200 people and now it may be read by 200,000 people, but you're not making as much money off of it. If you didn't get into writing because you had things to say to the world, then why are you doing it? It's a miserable way to make a living if you're doing it. If you thought, hey, this will be some quick cash here. I'll write a bestseller. You know, would like a bigger house, I know how I'll do it, I'll write a best-selling novel. It can't start from that place in the first place, so.
In answer to you had the question about why publishing hasn't changed. I think any insular group, whether that's Washington, publishing, media industry, all tend to feed on each other. They don't tend to go out too far out into the real world and talk to folks and say, how do you want your content delivered? You know, and so I think they sit there and they kind of have the same mantra over and over. We've always done it this way, it's worked. If we change, oh my God, we might not make that bottom line because publishing has been, the publishing industry has been consolidated so tightly that Holtzbrinck and the other big corporations want to see 20% profit out of an industry that standardly, if it had a good year, it made 10. And so taking risks makes them nervous because in the bottom line, if they take a risk and it fails, now, you know, Steve Jobs is willing to take a risk. He's got a lot of money, but he's willing to take a risk because he knows that maybe 9 out of 10 of those, he might have one failure, but the other 9 are going to make a buttload of money. But publishing is a really conservative group. They're nervous because they've got to show a bottom line. And I think that's why. That's why I think I see most of the innovation is in the small presses and like the Audiocast where people are actually, you know, taping and putting out their own audio books, and you can listen to them for free. I'm like, God, what a concept. And then going on to do contracts with New York. I think the more entrenched and old, and I don't want to use old boy network because there's a lot of old girls and young girls there who they're just, they feed on each other. And so being brave and bold is not rewarded.
Is there a question back there?
Yeah, I was going to say, no, that's good. Thinking of this, do you think this might be something that would lead to, or, you know, make more important having an agent for an author, someone who knows more about business, more about, here's how you know, can connect with your readers, versus, you know, the writer not only having to know how to write, how to tell a good story, but then how to sell themselves to people, how to navigate all of this?
I would do a publicist more than an agent, because a lot of the agents aren't necessarily that media savvy. If you get yourself a good publicist,
well, I'm thinking that I'm wondering if it might not be something that, you know, there isn't a term for yet specifically, that it's, you know, these people who have done this other stuff for writers before will take on, you know, hopefully good ones, you know, if writers figure out this is what they need, more of a role in helping them do that. Does that seem like something that you have seen anything of?
But I did what I did without an agent. I hired an agent out of desperation after St. Martin's called me, and I didn't understand the contract. Because I was sure that they had slipped something in there that would like let them never pay me. But I always thought of agents, and I have one now, but I always thought of agents as like the really good agent is the one that has all the right friends and it goes to all the right cocktail parties or whatever, and they hobnob and they can pick up the phone and when their recognition means something, when they say, look, this author actually is good. That role has to change because, you know, that is the point, is that marketing online and marketing through this new way by which people can connect with each other is a different, it takes a different approach, but they'll come around. But in my now conversations with an actual publisher and doing this, I've run into so many people that are so frightened and confused by the internet or whatever. I think you've got to make sure you've got somebody who's savvy. And I would, if you wind up trying to find an agent or whatever, man, I would ask them what they know about the internet. And if they seem confused or upset by it, or they think of the internet as a threat to what they're doing, yeah.
We've run out of time, I think. Yes.
Anybody have, by any chance, have a gray silver Nissan Altima?
No, I'd like one though.
Good. Well, this one's running, so they.
Well, that means I could get it. That's why they locked the door.
But we are out of time.
We are out of time.
And thank you, even though Brandon wasn't able to.
Thanks,
be here.
folks.
I hope Brandon still does.
Thanks for helping. I have free samples of my first book up here if you're dying to find out what I read.